Was there ever a cartoon you only watched just for the intro? For me, Recess was one of those shows. It was on Toon Disney all the time, but for some reason I'd only ever stick around for the start before changing the channel. I'm not sure why, it just didn't seem to grab me at that age, despite being one of the most popular Disney shows of the late 90s, lasting 6 seasons with multiple direct-to-video spin-offs. Maybe too many. Still, I think missing out on this is one of those childhood regrets, because I've decided to look back on the show with Recess School's Out. This was the first, and only, theatrical movie based on the TV series, and even though I didn't really watch it much, I vaguely recall this film getting a fair bit of publicity back then. In fact, just to combine it with an actual young obsession of mine, here's an old issue of the Robot Wars magazine from 2001, which has an ad for the film on the back. Huh, funny, it actually came out on my 5th birthday. I was knee-deep into my Power Rangers phase at the time though, so no wonder I never saw it. And who are the sponsors down here? W.H. Smith and... No! No! Actually, wait a minute, I think I can explain this. In case you don't know, Think is a British road safety campaign, and in 2001, they put out a big ad in cinemas warning kids to be careful on the roads, using this boy who doesn't realise he's a ghost.
That's the second time that's happened this week. Hurt a lot more the first time.
Charming. So chances are if you went to see the Recess movie on the big screen, you probably saw this nightmarish warning, because Think sponsored the film so they could traumatize as many kids as possible. They really are fiends. Tangent aside, the movie itself wasn't too successful over here, opening at a very low number 8 and grossing just under $1 million overall. Even the marketing was kind of bizarre, like here's the American poster, and here's the British one. What happened? Why is there a British flag all of a sudden? Was this meant to make it seem more relatable to us Brit kids? Well, if that was a problem, why couldn't they just make it look like the background on the magazine one? I mean, it's not like they're fooling anyone. With a title like Recess, it couldn't be more American. If you're gonna go that far, you might as well just rename the show Break Time instead. Ah well, I think it's time for class, so sit down, pay attention, and put your thinking cap on, because there will be a test. It's a Disney tape, so bring on the trailers. First up is The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, which feels like such a downgrade from the original. Everything's so stock and cheap looking. Wow, is that enough cliches already? I think that has to be a record.
An all-new movie, only available on video and Disney DVD.
Next up, Cinderella, the classic Disney film. Pretty much everyone already knows the story of this one, and oh, it's just a trailer for the sequel.
The most enchanting moment ever continues.
Well, that's kind of weird. You don't see too many trailers where it's literally just clips from the first movie without telling you anything about the second one. I thought this was like a re-release or something, or a mislead.
The brand new sequel, available only on video and Disney DVD.
Monsters Inc. is the next one, and I think this is another one of those trailers that I've seen so many times I know it word for word in my head, but I think you already know how I feel about that.
Monsters Incorporated.
It's a musical! Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me! So help me! So help me! And cut!
The last trailer is for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first ever animated Disney film from way back in 1937.
The classic tale of good versus evil.
Kill her.
It's kind of funny how as a kid, I didn't even realise how old this was. I just took it for granted, like it just came out. I suppose classical animation has that kind of timeless quality. You can never quite put a year to it.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Own it for a limited time only on video and Disney DVD from October 2001.
Movie time now, and I do like a good logo variation, so Disney on the kazoo is a nice touch. Now, for a movie all about school stuff, I'm slightly surprised that the movie starts off with a bunch of goons breaking into a secret base and stealing a top-secret laser.
Are they dead?
No, sir. Merely unconscious.
Good, good. You know how I hate violence.
Pfft, typical Disney movies, always deviating from the source material.
What next, sir?
Well, obviously we establish our base. The last place on Earth they'd look. 3rd Street School.
However, after the bad guys make off with their goodies, we get a recreation of the show's original intro all in CGI. Feels a bit like watching an old PS2 game, honestly. So what is the general idea of Recess? Well, it's basically about the various misadventures taking place at 3rd Street School during, well, recess. It's a pretty colourful cast of characters, and I like how the whole school is split up into distinct personalities and clans. You've got the bratty girls, the jocks, the kindergartners, who are basically like wild cave people, and even some loners too, like this guy who sells stuff out of his coat pocket.
Get your celebratory contraband right here! Shaving cream, TP, goofy string maps to the teachers' houses!
I bet we all know who he grew up to be. And then there's this kid called Randall, who just tells on everyone constantly and sucks up to all the teachers.
I've got dirt on everybody! Well, everybody except Detweiler and his pals.
Yeah, I knew that kid. That was a girl in my school. As for our main characters, the movie focuses on TJ, the leader of his own group of misfits who are always trying to make the playground a better place for kids. There's Vince, the sporty kid, Gretchen, the nerd, Gus, the other nerd, Mikey, the singer, Strange, and finally there's Spinelli, the tomboy, who'll probably snap your neck if you look her in the eye.
Look out, Muscles! Here comes the flying press!
Their latest scheme involves making it rain ice cream and impersonating the principal with a snazzy gadget that can change TJ's voice.
I want to inform you all that I have a fat, saggy butt, which I like to scratch every hour on the hour.
Man, I feel ashamed of myself for all the terrible, rotten things I've done.
What a lucky kid TJ is to have so many resourceful friends to make all these inventions for him. But Principal Prickly, the prickly principal, catches TJ in the act. But because it's the last day of school, it's kind of a moot point.
Oh, Detweiler, I've had enough of your childish pranks. This time I'm really gonna throw the book at you.
It's the last day of school, sir. I've only got 20 more seconds of 4th grade left.
Why didn't I think of that when I set my teacher's desk on fire? Speaking of teachers, they're an odd bunch as well, especially Miss Finster, who I always thought was kind of terrifying as a kid.
There's nothing TJ Detweiler and his hooligan friends can do to stop me now.
Maybe because she reminds me of my maths teacher of that age. So the teachers and the kids celebrate the end of the year with some music, because early 2000s Disney movies just loved plugging their soundtracks. It's like the first Pokemon movie all over again. It looks like it's going to be a great summer for the kids, but TJ learns that all his friends are splitting up to go to camp. Sports camp, space camp, wrestling camp. I've never seen this many camps in my life. I think it must be an American thing. We never had stuff like this over here. I had to spend most of my summers getting thrown out by my parents. They'd lock the back door and everything.
Summer's gonna be ruined! What am I gonna do? Play baseball by myself?
We can't waste all summer just fooling around like kids.
But we are kids!
That makes TJ's dilemma kind of sympathetic, actually, as he ends up stuck on his own with nothing to do. That is, until he notices the bad guys have set up shop in the empty school, testing their giant green laser thingy on a safe? Makes sense. TJ tells his parents, but of course they don't believe him.
Those guys at the school, they're doing some kind of evil experiment.
Oh dear, you're feverish. You wait right here. I'll go get the baby thermometer and the petroleum jelly.
I think we'll just gloss over that particular joke. Fortunately, TJ does the smart thing and tells the police everything, which they accept without any hesitation whatsoever.
Look, Artie, somebody's levitating my donut with a laser beam.
I'm so glad they chose to portray the police force in such an accurate way.
Principal Brickley, you gotta come quick, it's an emergency!
Very funny, Detweiler. I'm not falling for another one of your so-called jokes.
TJ even tells the principal, and even though he doesn't buy it, he at least decides to check out the school, before getting vaporized by a zillion volts. What is it with these dark cartoon adaptations? They're just so violent. By this point, I think I'd be shaking under my bed, but TJ is braver than that and decides to reunite with his friends to solve the mystery. But he needs a lift, so he convinces his sister into helping him by stealing her diary.
Give me that! I've got copies. Now either you give me a ride, or this baby hits the internet.
That boy was ahead of his time.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway.
This kind of reminds me of Zombie Island, getting the gang back together and all, only without all the food. They all return to the school to investigate, but it turns out that the principal is still alive and well, and the other kids accuse TJ of making up the whole story.
I think you cooked this whole thing up just because you wanted us back from camp. Your mind simply created an adventure because it needed some excitement.
No, it really happened. I saw Prickly disappear.
Now wouldn't that be a sad twist if TJ went nuts from not having friends anymore and really was making it all up? It'd be like Recess, the psychological trauma edition.
In a few weeks, Tej.
But when the bad guys unveil their giant evil laser gun, how convenient, they realize he's telling the truth.
Okay, that right there, that was messed up.
They agree to stay together and stay up late to keep an eye on the school, with an oddly poignant discussion about how their carefree childhoods won't last forever.
Too bad these days are numbered.
Yeah, this is probably the last summer we'll get to do stuff like this.
Kinda womps, huh?
Good thing these reviews are just an endless fountain of youth, or I'd be really depressed right now. The next day, they stake out the school, and they discover that the principal is actually just evil bald man in disguise.
It was like taking candy from a baby.
Now it really is like Scooby-Doo.
Then Principal Prickly must still be in the school.
Being held captive! You know what that means, don't you guys? We gotta go in there and save him.
The gang plot to break into the school, but that weasel Randall overhears them and rats them out to Miss Finster, who teams up with him to go after them.
Hold you, Miss Finster.
I wonder if I can get them tried as adults.
Yeah, send them all to the electric chair. The gang climb through the air vents and listen in on the bad guys, where we finally meet our main villain, William Benedict, played by Hades himself, James Woods.
We miss the window of opportunity, then the project fails. And if the project fails, then I get very, very angry!
He's your usual nutcase, an insane head teacher with a typical nerdy henchman and evil scientists helping him to make kids miserable forever.
I've been ready for decades. Just do it!
Yes, sir. Initiate photon channeling.
In fact, oddly enough, his head scientist is voiced by Tony J. He's sure been popping up a lot lately, hasn't he?
Engage tractor beam now.
They test out the giant laser on the moon, but it fails, and Benedict decides to punish his henchman in the most vicious way possible.
Not detention! Not detention!
Wow, I'm sure that'll go down in history as one of the all-time great Tony J villain lines.
And he shall smite the wicked and plunge them into the fiery pit. We've got to have money. Not detention! Not detention!
But when Mikey can't hold in his gross-out gag, the gang get caught.
Someone had better say, "Excuse me."
And Benedict dispatches a team of ninjas to catch them, while surfing music plays in the background.
This way! Hurry!
I'm guessing the real show wasn't this weird. The others make it out, but TJ gets dragged back in and imprisoned with the principal.
Hello, Pete. Remember me? Well, well. If it isn't William Benedict, I should have known you'd be the one behind this.
It turns out that Benedict and the principal are sworn enemies, and we get a flashback to the 60s, where everything was groovy, yo.
As my first official act as principal, I've decided to get rid of recess.
No recess? But Phil, for a kid, recess is like a major play-in.
Benedict was the principal back then, but when he decided to ban recess, the parents and teachers complained, and he ended up getting replaced by his old friend.
You tricked me. Went around my back to the man to get my job.
No, Phil, it's not like that at all.
I know my teachers wouldn't have complained about this. They would have chained us to the desks if they could. As if that isn't enough emotional baggage. Benedict was also in love with Miss Finster, who seems to have aged very poorly over the last 30 years if this flashback is anything to go by. Maybe I shouldn't think about it too much.
It's over. I could never be with a man who doesn't love recess.
Now, in order to get his revenge on the school, Benedict plans to use the super-duper laser to shift the moon out of orbit and freeze the planet, ending summer vacation for good. You know, like we'd all do if we had that kind of technology.
I'm gonna humiliate you. This time, I'm gonna prove to the world that you were wrong and I was right.
While the rest of the gang gather their reinforcements to fight Benedict, we get an interesting conversation between TJ and the principal, pointing out that they may not be so different after all.
Some days I sit there in my office looking out at you kids on the playground and I think they don't know how good they've got it. In a few years, they're all going to be grown-ups like me, and all those good times will just be memories for them too.
Yes, we should all cherish those childhood memories, even the ones of this show that I don't have. Let's just move on. So as the entire school assembles to save the day, it turns into an all-out battle. The goons get pelted with balls, hit with water balloons, an evil bald guy gets covered in... I'm not sure I really want to know.
Activate the tractor beam, quickly! We've only got 4 minutes left!
As Benedict prepares to fire the laser, he gives one last evil speech about how kids will perform much better in school once it's snowing 24 hours a day.
Kids don't waste their summers playing ball, they're inside studying. And that is why I'm getting rid of summer vacation once and for all.
He's starting to make the villains in the Tom and Jerry movie seem rational by this point. Before the laser goes off, Miss Finster arrives with the teachers, and they team up with the kids to save the day. Cue another plug for the soundtrack. Finally, the principal punches Benedict's lights out, and the laser gets blown to Kingdom Come.
Ruined.
Again, I'm kind of surprised Benedict doesn't get blown up by his own weapon here. I mean, come on, it's Disney. I thought they loved killing bad guys.
Get your hands off the suit, you classless phoebe!
Instead, the cops drag him off to the slammer, and the gang decide to stick together for the whole summer.
We've been thinking, and we've decided there's plenty of time for preparing for our futures. But only a little time left for just being kids.
TJ even stops by the principal's office to thank him for his help, which is quite a nice moment between the two.
I never really got a chance to thank you for all the stuff you did. You know, quitting your golf game, telling Benedict to let me go, helping me save the world and junk.
Actually, Detweiler, I'm the one who should be thanking you. See, I didn't get into teaching for the promotions or the pension plans. I did it because I wanted to help you kids.
And with that, school is well and truly out, as TJ and the gang decide to become 60s musicians and pursue a career in psychedelic entertainment.
Now listen while I play my green tambourine.
Yeah, I didn't expect that ending. That said, I think this is my favourite shot of the whole movie. I think it speaks for itself, really. Now cue even more soundtrack bait. So that was Recess, School's Out, and honestly, I'm not sure there's that much to say about it. It's possible I'm just so overwhelmed from the Tom and Jerry movie last time that this seems kind of tame by comparison, but overall, it feels more like this is one of those direct-to-video films and they just scaled it up for the big screen. The villain is pretty fun, and there are one or two poignant moments about the nature of childhood, but on the whole, I'd say it's fairly average. I suspect the actual show is probably a far superior watch. Hopefully the fans won't put me in detention for saying that. Thanks for watching this video, and look out for more reviews coming soon. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, support me on Patreon for early access to new episodes, and don't forget you can buy a ton of these tapes from the official Back to the Past eBay store. See you next time.